It's time now for the Todd Leonard Show. Leave those negative stories behind as we focus on the positive and hear from those who give back and help others. Let's start your day with some inspirational stories. Now, here's your host, Todd Leonard.
Good morning, everyone. We have an incredible show once again. Before we talk with Blair Wilson and Sandy Jones, incredible, really important parts of Mars Habitat for Humanity, I want to just speak briefly about Memorial Day. You know, this Memorial Day weekend, and everybody gets together, they party, they go to barbecues, they go to their friend's pool, whatever they're doing, but it's really a somber day. We all owe the brave men and women of our incredible service a huge debt of gratitude. They paid the ultimate price for our freedom. And when you are hanging out with your family and friends, they never forget that. Our freedoms today was because of those sacrifices. When you see the military walking around, you should say, God bless you for all your service, because they're willing to put their lives on the line to protect us every day. So God bless our brave men and women of our service. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So for the listeners, this is really quite a treat once again. You know, we have incredible folks. Every week I look around the community. I say, who's making a difference? Who's pulling the community together? Who's building lives? Who's changing lives? Mars Habitat for Humanity has been doing that since 1985. We have Blair Wilson today. She's the CEO, been with them about 18 years, and she's an expert in affordable housing. And we're going to explore with her evolution and how she landed at Mars Habitat for Humanity and all the exciting things she's doing as the CEO. But we also have a very special guest, Sandy Jones. Sandy Jones is one of these beautiful homes that Mars Habitat for Humanity built almost a decade ago. We're going to go on her journey, and we're going to go with her. She brought her hard hat in today. We got a lot of fun things to go over with these incredible guests. Good morning, ladies, once again.
Good morning, Todd.
How are you?
Good. Sandy, don't mess up your hair. I know you got
right?
a lot of glitter in there. And
sparkles. You have to sparkle.
You are sparkling. Both you ladies are sparkling. So
that's important.
Let me just, for the listeners, because, look, I live in Mars County. I always loved the Habitat for Humanity. I think about President Carter and all his commitment. I think about him with his bandana in his 90s, even after going, he had a subdural hematoma. After having a few wicked falls, he's out in the field. So it was very inspiring. So for the listeners, let me start with you, Blair Wilson. So Blair, I pumped you up a little bit. I know you're an expert in affordable housing. So let's talk about, how you got involved in affordable housing and why that was a passion for you.
It started way back in the early 90s when I was president of the League of Women Voters in my town, and we studied the issue of affordable housing because of the Fair Housing Act, the Mount Laurel decision. In our town, we wanted to know more about it. So it was a new word for me, a new world, and so way back then flash forward to late 90s, I got a job at the Housing Partnership for Mars County, where I was helping first-time home buyers, lower and moderate income first-time home buyers, educating them on the process to getting into home ownership. And then my personal life took a big turn. I hit every one of those stressors, including I thought I should get a job, just add to it. And I applied for the executive director job at Mars Habitat and got it.
Wow.
And here I am. That was in 2004. So here we are.
You also were the mayor of Mountain Lakes.
Yes, that's true. Twice.
Wow. God bless you. So why Mars Habitat for Humanity? Why did you want to be involved with this incredible organization?
Well, at the Housing Partnership, we worked a little bit with Mars Habitat, where we did the education piece and Mars Habitat did the building. And so I kind of fell into it because it was a position for me to go into the next level of, program director now to executive director. So it's just one of those career choices. But I will tell you, my own life, I grew up, kid of the 60s, little kid thinking that everybody had mom, dad, sisters, aunts and uncles. And, when you grow up and you realize that's not reality. And, I started to volunteer and I wanted other people to have what I had. And so this is a way for me to really see that. And when we got our first house, we were helped by family. most of our families don't have that. They're either first generation or coming from communities where they don't have those resources. That's what I want to do, is just help people have what I had growing up.
Well, that's a beautiful thing, you know, Blair, for you to realize that you wanted to give back and give everybody the opportunity, because that's about life. You have to give back and give others that opportunity. And that's why when you ladies said you're willing to come on the show, I know I saw the heart out today. I try to explain, Sandy, it won't be that rough. I hope this is easier than being on a work site. So, Sandy, you've also gone on a very interesting journey. And I love understanding people's journey, because we're all on a journey. I don't know which direction you're going to go. Maybe you need a hard hat for life because you get clobbered sometimes. We all do. But so, Sandy, let's talk about your situation. So I know you're a proud mother of 4. And getting ready for the show, we were talking not that long ago, and you were telling me that you had applied back a while ago to get one of these beautiful homes.
Probably 19 years ago, was it?
Yeah.
A long time ago. I was living in Randolph, and Blair actually came to my house, but there was somebody more in need because I was living in a nice townhouse apartment in Randolph. It was 2 bedrooms. It had an upstairs, downstairs, and there was somebody at that time more need, and I wasn't prepared, because you have to really be prepared. Habitat is a hand up. It's not a hand out. And my journey continued. I always had it in my mind, and God planted a seed that I one day would be a Habitat for Humanity homeowner. And as life happened, I ended up getting divorced. My one daughter, I'll tell you, my oldest, she's 25 today. Actually, Kayla's 21 today, but I have a 25, 23, 21, and 14-year-old. So as my journey began with Habitat, I knew one day I would be a Habitat homeowner. God planted the seed. My aunt also kept saying, one day you're going to be a Habitat homeowner. And we always volunteered with Pass It Along. And I met Blair in Morristown many, many years ago. And I always kept in touch with Habitat. And it was just the time. I had improved my credit score a lot. I had a need because I was living in Florham Park, and I had 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and there was 5, of women, ladies, because my daughters were young then. So that's hard, sharing 1 bathroom with 5 girls, females. And so they came, it was just the time. And it was really exciting journey, honestly.
And I should say that where she was living was Florham Park's affordable rental.
Yes.
And so our program wants to move people up the housing continuum to free up that home for somebody else. So she was ready.
I was in a moderate income townhouse or apartment, actually. And and so I improved my credit score. I had a full-time job. You have to put in sweat equity, I think 365 as a single person, maybe 400 hours. I'm not sure if it's changed over the years. And it just was time. And I always instilled in my daughters volunteering, giving back is so important. Even though I didn't have a lot, we always were volunteering, we were helping, we were giving back. And it's life-changing. And with Habitat, they were building in Summit, and I was convinced, I knew it was my time. And I went to the lottery, because it is the lottery. At that time, I'm not sure if there were 10 people, 10 families, but we were building 6 townhouses, I believe, in Summit. And so we went to the lottery. So, they came to my house. They said, okay, you have a need. They checked my credit. I went to home ownership classes. And so now it's the time, you go, and I really thought that I was going to own a townhouse in Summit. And I went to lottery. I invited, my daughters are part of Big Brothers Big Sisters. So I invited a couple of their big sisters, aunts and uncles, and
filled
family.
The audience.
I was like, it's my time. I just knew. Oh my goodness. They called every number, not mine. I was devastated.
But we realized
it was a journey.
This is an uplifting show.
Yes.
So for the listeners, because Sandy, wow, you are really, you're energetic, and I love that. So Blair, for the listeners.
Happy ending. I
No, we're going to build. No, this is an uplifting show.
Uplifting, encouraging, yes.
So Blair, so part of the interesting part of Habitat for Humanity right here in Morris County is there's a vetting and screening process. And Sandy touched a little bit about it because I think it's important for the listeners, because some folks need a hand up. And I love that. Yes. It's not a handout, it's a hand up.
Yes, absolutely.
I had the Morris food pantry on not that long ago.
Okay.
And it's the same concept.
Yes.
Everybody just wants a fair shake in life.
Yes.
And if they need a hand up, that's perfectly fine. No one wants to feel like, they're destitute. So, Blair, like a screening process. So for the listeners, so let's say someone knows a little bit about Habitat for Humanity or just listening today for the first time. What's the screening process so that folks that are listening say, hey, look, maybe that family's eligible, or maybe I'm eligible for it. So how does that work?
Well, first starts with income eligibility, and we comply with the state's affordable housing rules and regulations, and there's very strict income eligibility. I hate to say that because if you're $1 over, you're $1 over. That's a whole other discussion.
Yes.
So based on your household size, so a household size of 5, like Sandy, you can be the maximum I want to say is about $75,000, $77,000 annual income. Somebody listening might think, well, that's a lot. Try to live in Morris County with one person on $77,000 when the average rent for one bedroom is $1,500 a month. So it's income eligibility. The need, as Sandy said, so if you're living in a place that's affordable to you, which means paying no more than 30% of your income on rent, that's a good place. We've got a lot of people paying 50 and 60% of their income on rent.
Yes.
And they go to the food pantry because of that. And the willingness to partner.
Yes.
And this is not a program that happens overnight. This is a program that could take a year or more depending on what we're building. So you have to be willing to put in the sweat equity. We will work with you because all you need is a pulse and a smile.
Yes.
I mean, any level. I mean, I was hired, pulse and a smile, Anyway, I know my board's probably now cringing.
You're a little
at that.
modest. We're going to get to you. I think it's one that a very pretty smile, both you ladies.
Oh, my goodness.
There's a little more under the
A hard hat.
But so you need, it's income, the willingness to partner and demonstrating the need. And then we put them in a random selection once that happens. Our recent selection, we had about 80 or 90 applications for one house. I mean, that's just heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
Yeah, so let's get to something uplifting.
Okay.
And once again, thank you for having pulses, very beautiful smiles, and showing up this morning. But on a serious and very uplifting note, so you had brought a lot of folks, Sandy, in Summit.
I
you
did.
Thought in your heart it was time.
It was time.
However, not at that moment.
Right.
And then
it's God's timing, right? So then, but I started building immediately because I knew, well, first of all, Habitat called me the next day. Are you okay? I'm like, yes. They're like, stay encouraged. I'm like, okay. And they're like, we're building in Denville and you'll go automatically into that lottery. I don't have to go through the whole process again. So thank goodness. I went a few days before Christmas. I left my job during lunch. They're like, are you sure you really want to go? I was like, yes. And they're like, what if you're not chosen? I'm like, I am going to be chosen. I know it's my time. So thank goodness I was chosen. But a couple years earlier, I started building at the Summit construction site. So we didn't even start building in Denville till maybe 18 months later. So I pretty much had all my sweat equity hours in because you meet the most selfless people. So I love our volunteers. They are unbelievable. They helped build my 4 daughters in my home. I never met them. They don't want anything except maybe a hug. We used to bake them chocolate chip cookies because my daughters were too young to put on a hard hat and bang some nails. So it's just such a blessing, and the volunteers are so beautiful. They're the most selfless people. And then, so this is a very special hard hat.
Yeah, point it over there.
Oh, here you go, guys. This is my hard hat. This was one of the most special days I had with Habitat. I was invited to a breakfast, and they were honoring the Friday Faithfuls. And at that time, I was given a hard hat. They considered me a Friday Faithful. Because most of the time, after the homeowners put in their 365 hours, that's all that's expected. But I always said, I'm going to give back. I'm going to continue to build houses. So I'm part of the Habitat Road Trip Crazies, and we do blitz builds. And I still build with Morris Habitat. A few weeks ago, Christchurch Women's Ministry, we were out in Randolph building. And it's just such a blessing.
So, Sandy, once again, I don't want you to put it on your hair and mess up your hair.
Mess up my hair again?
That's what the host also worries about as well. So, but I just want to make sure I understand this. So you didn't win the random drawing in Summit.
I did not.
You stayed with it. You were hopeful. You were faithful.
Yes.
You were putting in your sweat equity.
I was before I wasn't even chosen for a Habitat home.
So one of the things that I'm always fascinated about is people that have hope, because we all need hope. We all need to have faith.
Yes, we do.
What made you decide, even though it was extraordinarily disappointing? I mean, I'm sure, like you said, they called you, make sure you were still breathing. But what made you decide that you still wanted to put the sweat equity, even though you had not yet in place?
First of all, if I'm honest, I thought maybe I was going to meet my future husband with a hard hat and some work boots on, right? Who doesn't want to meet a fine construction man? No. I didn't know anything about nails coming in different sizes. I didn't know how to use a chop saw, a bandsaw. I was climbing up to the top of the roof like on wooden planks. They taught me so much. And I met, like I said, the most beautiful volunteers.
There you go.
They're so selfless.
This sounds like Match.com.
I did not meet my future husband, but that's okay. It's on God's timing.
Yeah. So, Blair, we were talking in advance of the show about this love between the mortar joints.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, I want to keep this as a PG-rated show.
Yes,
though,
absolutely, absolutely.
My youngsters are listening. But
my daughters.
But Blair, Sandy's so passionate about giving back, and I know you've been so involved with affordable housing and the way the good Lord shined. You became CEO like 18 years ago. What's your perspective on the volunteers that you've come in contact with? Because, Sandy's effusive and really just glowing about it. What are your thoughts?
I'll tell you, they are all like this. And the Friday Faithful, who she's talking about, we now call Habitat Faithful. These are retired men and women, and they have found the fountain of youth. Just look at Jimmy Carter, our most famous volunteer, or one of our famous volunteers. Living a long life, coming out, working side by side with the families. You'll never go on another construction site outside of Habitat where everybody wants to be there. And training and, Sandy and myself, we don't know how to use a hammer. They come out, patiently train. These are folks retired from all walks of life. Yeah. They've learned, and they're donating their talents and a lot of times their money too.
One of your...
they donate to us. And so my thoughts on that is, when you give, the adage, it's better to give than to receive. You really get so much more. Your problems go away. So we call these things God winks. Those little moments when, they're just coincidences that might happen. So God had a plan for Sandy, and she met her future house.
Yes, I did. And it's changed my four daughters' life. That's okay. I'm still going. I still have my hard hat, and I'm wearing it.
You're out on the road.
And we meet, friends. There's a social aspect. These folks are Habitat Faithful. Many of them, they socialize outside of us, not just on the construction site, in the office, at home during the pandemic. We had, experts in engineering and planning. Attorneys. I actually have one of my volunteers as an attorney and pharmacist. Interesting combination. He came in and said, Blair, I love home repair. Do not ask me about any contracts. So he comes in on a regular basis. Very funny. But, we all have our talents to give, and we honor them, we reward them with hard hats and hours. Our volunteers, we've got some of them volunteering over 30 years, and some of them are in their late 80s. We've got 192, Warren.
Yes,
92 coming
unbelievable.
That's amazing. So, Blair, for the listeners, because I'm not handy either. I'm an attorney, and I'll be honest with you. Me holding a hammer would be frightening. There would be liability in the air, let alone who else might get hit by the hammer.
You know what? You can do cleanup. You can serve water. You can help the volunteers by bringing tools, and they're labeled in the trailer if you don't know what a certain tool is, what kind of nail or screws.
You can volunteer in the restore.
You can volunteer in the restore.
Ladies, did you see the physique? I worked out this morning.
We're going to see you out there next Saturday.
I'll tell you a funny story in a minute. But so, Blair, if someone wants to reach us about Mars Habitat for Humanity, what's the website? How do they reach you?
MarsHabitat.org, www.marshabitat.org. We have everything on there. We have videos on how to become a homeowner, videos on how to volunteer. We have a volunteer calendar. Just go on. Our service area is Morris County right down through Middlesex County. So there's opportunities in this very large 1,000 square miles. I'm trying to think of my math there, 1,000 square mile area, for construction, restore, home repair, in the office, on the phone. You can do stuff from home. So we have a place for anybody.
And what many people don't know is that Habitat, I have a 30-year mortgage. It's 0 interest. So I put in my sweat equity. That's kind of the down payment.
Yes.
And my house might in Denville be worth $350,000. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I have a garage, and I believe I received it for $160,000. And I had to come up with like 5%. So instead of having to come up with $40,000 down payment on a house, I had to come up maybe with $5,000. It's very intense though, and Habitat is they do the walk with you through the whole process from very beginning to the ending, and it's such a beautiful blessing.
And I'll say that just to clarify, we have a deed restriction on these homes. So Sandy she can sell whenever she wants. It has to be to another income eligible household. And then we'll put another deed restriction on it.
Wonderful. So you keep on
affordable.
Yeah, so I can't sell my house for $300,000, which I never would. Why would I sell a house if it's 0 interest?
Well, I saw the picture. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
One of the things, I love to say the word striking when I think something really hits me, but it is striking how you reach across all spectrums at Mars Habitat for Humanity. You have these incredible folks, these volunteers that are part of the community. You have a lawyer, you have builders, you have incredible contractors. You have an amazing network of mentors and all these different people of all walks of life, all colors, all religions. It's like a rainbow coalition of goodness.
Yeah.
Yes,
it really is.
So Blair, once again, we all have gifts in life, and I believe that. Everybody's given something in life, they should pay it forward, whatever it might
absolutely.
be. And I was joking because I'm not handy. I know that, which is fine. You have to know, but I can work at it.
We have our
But
gifts.
I know I'm good at a few things. Hopefully being a host, we'll let the jury deliberate right now. But literally, when you start a project, Blair, what goes into, what's the infrastructure? Because what fascinates me is you're starting from the ground up. So first you got to find the land. And I'm realistic, in Morris County, very affluent. I'm assuming you have to find the right spot. You have to get the neighbors kind of on board with the concept, right? You're going to have affordable housing in your neighborhood. How does that work? If you just walk us through the beginning stages of finding a site.
Well, we work with municipalities to help them with their affordable housing obligation. The Mount Laurel decision that was decided in 1976 basically obligated municipalities to make sure that they have a fair share number of affordable homes, both rental and home ownership within their communities. So we work with municipalities and say, how can we help? We're a solution. So in Randolph, they donated property to us, enough where we can build 25 units that were under construction right now. And then we involve the community.
Yeah.
We have a detailed, very professional pre-development group under my COO and Vice President of Real Estate, Liz DeCourcy, who gets the property. She does all the property acquisition stuff with engineers and attorneys and so forth. And then we get to building permit and get it over to my chief construction officer, Doug Wright, who then will build. In the meantime, my fundraising team and myself, we start to fundraise. Many often towns have affordable housing trust funds like Randolph, and Summit. So we're able to get land and money from them. The federal government through home and CDBG funds, we get those funds. So we're very opportunistic. Mikey Sherrill recently put in her community program funding through the fiscal year 22 budget, $3 million to help us offset the cost for the Randolph project. And then we work with the community. Banks sponsor homes. People can buy bricks, or we have events. it's really the community coming together. Because I believe, what else are we doing in this world? We have to work together, and it is feel good.
It is.
And you might have a disappointment or something going on. We come together. We do a lot of laugh. We work hard. We play hard.
Yes.
And we build homes. In fact, Millard Fuller, our founder, calls it the power of the hammer. And I just love this. So with the power of the hammer, we put aside all of our differences and we come together and we build and help together with the families, because we learn with the family. We don't build for folks. We build with folks.
Yes.
Because we're learning from each other.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
And I
want to get your perspective. So Sandy, when you knew the good Lord had shined and you now won, you were a random drawing winner. And what was that feeling like when you heard or learned that you were going to get one of these beautiful homes? And just for the listener, these are really top-notch
beautiful.
houses.
Yes, and they're really built. I mean,
they're built beautifully. What was that like? That feeling? Can you just tell the listeners when because you unfortunately in some it didn't turn out well for you there, but you kept your spirit, your hope. But what was that feeling? What went through your mind when how did you hear about it? First of all,
I was at the lottery.
I figured you'd be there.
Yes, I was there.
So what was that like? Tell us the feeling.
Happy tears this time. I can't even express. I just knew that my 4 daughters and my life would never be the same. We would own an actual home for ourselves.
Did you scream? What was it like?
I have goosebumps right now.
Tell us like that feeling in your heart and your mind.
It's the best feeling in the world. Like, it just gave me, I felt so happy, so thankful. I had so much gratitude. I just couldn't wait to go hug all of the volunteers who I never met before, because it's unbelievable. I met the most selfless people on these construction sites. They want nothing but like, thank you, a hug. They don't even ask for it, but I'm just like, you don't understand. Like, my one daughter right now, she's the vice president of Habitat in Ithaca. And she said, there's nothing like going to a construction site. You're working, and she has both perspectives as a vice president of her college, Ithaca Habitat Club. She's building houses, but she's also a recipient of a home. So she has so many different perspectives, but you get dirty, you learn something new, and you see like that you actually accomplished helping build a home. And I just was in Randolph, like I mentioned earlier, with Christ Church, the women's ministry. I got to meet 4 of the homeowners and build with them and spend the day with them. And I just let them know, like, your life is never going to be the same. They were sharing what they're paying now in rent. And this is life-changing. I had a 360,000-mile Toyota Camry. And since, like, I have the house and my mortgage is probably 3/4 less than what I was paying for rent in Florham Park, I just was able to buy a 2021 Toyota Camry.
That's so amazing.
It's such a blessing. Like, financially, my credit score, I think when I started with Habitat was maybe 650. It has to be. I was like right there. It was close, because you have to have not a great credit score. I just checked it the other day. It's 812 and 810.
Wow, hold on. I'm a little
Thank
jealous.
you, Jesus. It's been a lot of hard work. It's been a lot of.
She goes through she had to go through intensive budget and credit counseling and debt reduction.
It's definitely a partnership. And like you said, like one day I feel I'm part of the Habitat family, and I do these blitz builds with the Habitat Crazies. I'm heading to Corning, New York in September. And the most beautiful thing for me is meeting other families and letting them know their life is never going to be the same. And I get to share. And I really hope, I tell them it's really important. You don't have to go and build other people's homes, but I feel like you should share your story and give back and pay it forward.
Well, I
have habitatitis.
No, you do. And that's a good
And I'm going to continue building houses until I can't do it anymore when I die.
Sandy, you have a lot of energy. So we're going to be right back in 30 seconds with these wonderful folks from Mars Habitat for Humanity.
The Todd Leonard Show is sponsored by the Leonard Foundation, whose mission is to support the children and families who are battling pediatric cancer and those in need of food and assistance, women's shelters, and other important social services in the community. They also proudly support those fighting pancreatic cancer. They feel it's vitally important to help those in need in our amazing community when they need us the most. Please join them in extending a helping hand and go to leonardcharity.org and donate now. Together, we can touch many lives.
Welcome back. You know, this is really an entertaining show. I'm learning, hopefully everyone's learning together about these wonderful ladies and what Mars Habitat for Humanity stands for. Before we go further in the show, you know what's also interesting, Sandy, is your family. You're blessed with 4 beautiful daughters.
Yes.
You're so proud of them. I mean, you should be. But your daughters that are also now so involved with starting their own or being innovators at their school, because it changes the world. From what you are instilling in your kids and what they witness firsthand is the magic of Habitat for Humanity.
Yes.
Because it's like one generation to the next. Because you're getting a hand up.
Yes.
Your kids are flourishing.
They are.
You're flourishing. And that's the beauty of the organization. Blair, I wanted to get your perspective because,
my one daughter, actually, she'll tell you she moved like 8 different times. My 25-year-old Amber. Brianna will tell you she moved 7 different times. Kayla, 6. Danae, only once from Florham Park. She's the only daughter that's been in one school district from kindergarten through, she'll be in 10th grade in September. And she's playing varsity basketball, as point guard freshman year. She's thriving A's. Amber's in school to be an esthetician. Brianna's doing amazing. She has a job she loves. Kayla's in Ithaca getting her master's of occupational therapy. All of my daughters are all really happy, successful, and they all give back, and they know how important it is to volunteer. If it's at church, if it's at a nonprofit, if it's coming, they all love Habitat. Like, they have a special place in their heart for Habitat.
And a birthday shout out for Kayla, right?
Kayla, happy 21st birthday.
Yeah, happy 21st.
I hope you're watching.
After you,
she better be watching.
That's right.
You need the ratings to go up, okay?
You know, and you think about the big picture of when, moving around and what does that do to a person? I mean,
yes.
and your kids, my kids, we moved around a lot, and I saw the stress, and I didn't have the same stresses, income and so forth as Sandy did. But her kids could put down roots. They could then grow and get involved and, not have to worry about where is that rent coming from or how am I going to make that rent payment. Yes. And they could get on. I like to say, get on with the business of living. That's what we all want. Yeah. We all find, we buy or rent what we can afford. But when we have folks in our communities, our entry-level folks in our businesses, our hairdressers, our people who work in our borough halls. When I was mayor of Mountain Lakes, I remember the manager came to me one time and said, I just want you to know I have to put the DPW up in the local hotel because we're going to have a big snowstorm. And this was before I became involved with Habitat. I said, well, why would you do that? He said, Blair, they can't afford to live in New Jersey. And that was my first, even though I had studied affordable housing, that was the first knowledge that people that we need in our communities need an affordable place to live. Because these are folks that we need.
It's safe, it's affordable.
Safe, decent, not just any place, but a place for dignity.
So, and dignity. I mean, everybody wants to enhance their dignity and independence. I mean, that's the beauty of life, if you can help people strive for that. So, Blair, we talk about the importance of home ownership. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about, you ladies coming on. And I know when I was a young guy, I was blessed to have incredible parents. My late parents believed in me and provided a lot financially, but they also know I had to pay my own mortgage and pay my own way. But I know when I had my first house, I felt like so much pride and joy, like, oh my God, like this is my place. Blair, what's it like as a CEO? How many families have you provided that gift of home ownership?
175.
Well,
so in my tenure, I've actually built about 125 homes, but altogether we have 175 homes in the Morris and Middlesex area.
You guys are really awesome.
Changing lives, and not one foreclosure.
Not one foreclosure. We'll work with folks because we do hold the mortgages and we can modify them, because life happens to all of us and we want success at the end of the day. And, Sandy said that she had applied several times to get a home. That latest Edith Road that I was just talking about with the number of home applicants, that family they won the random selection, they also applied several times. So don't give up.
Yes, don't give up. Have hope.
We have 179 units in our pipeline.
Right. I know Mike and Cheryl and the grants and the wonderful, really, the community is awesome. Everybody wants to help
everyone comes together. It's beautiful.
So, Sandy, you have a few different perspectives on this, and that's why I was so excited, because when I reached out to this, the CEO of Mars Habitat for Humanity, I said I would love to have someone come on who actually is a recipient. And thank you, because Sandy Jones, wow, talk about some energy, and really, I just love
such a blessing.
Your humanity. So
thank you.
You have a very unique, like I said, perspective on it.
I do.
You now have some time. You own a beautiful home.
Almost 10 years this September.
But you're still out there. You're with the road trip crazies, these building blitzes. Why? Why do you still feel that's important?
Because I love to meet the new homeowners. I love to let them know how much their life is going to change. And I have habitatitis. The volunteers are so selfless. There's such amazing energy. I can't even explain it. I just love being with Jimmy. He's in charge. Come out and volunteer. We're building in Randolph right now, and you'll understand why. Once you go, you know.
Well, so I have to tell you the story. So we have these incredible new neighbors, and he was building a shed, and he's a big, strong guy, and, like I'm any other neighbor. Let me give the guy a hand. That's the problem. He had a wheelbarrow full of these rocks. He had to run in his house, so I had to get the wheelbarrow over the curb and wheel it down to where he's putting this beautiful shed together. The problem is I haven't handled a wheelbarrow in maybe 40 years. Well, let's just say it didn't end well. So if you see me on one of your sites, because I will come out and I'm holding a wheelbarrow, make sure it's empty, and I'm not going to be using it to transport
We won't
items.
have you run up the ramp with it.
What ended up happening, I spilled all these rocks onto the beautiful lawn. So myself and his handsome little youngster, we had to pick the rocks out of the grass. So let's just say he tried to be nice about it, but he looked at me like, oh, my God. So ladies, this goes back to everybody has different gifts.
Yeah.
So, Blair, I also want to talk about the wonderful mentors, because I know that the mentors really help the new homeowners, how to kind of guide them through life on many different levels. Blair, tell us about the mentors.
Well, because this is a program where most of our homeowners are first generation or don't have the support system, they don't have anybody like you and I had. I could go back to my parents or uncles to ask, to help us out. Or I have a question on paying mortgage. What does it mean to pay taxes and so forth? We pair up our folks with this is a volunteer job with our homeowners, and they have immediate access to folks, sort of like the Big Brothers Big Sister program, and they end up being friends, so they can ask them all kinds of questions about the homeownership process. I couldn't do my sweat equity. Help me figure out how to let my director of homeowner relations know, or I can't. I don't understand the closing process is very stressful. That's like a full-time job because we sell our homes to our families. So, that's just stressful. They still need all the same documentation that any other, home buyer would need, because we are the lender. Yeah. And so this way they walk them through, they're right there with them the whole time. So, that's, folks using their gifts. And I was going to go back to, we work with Beasley Media, who is the corporation for WDHA and WMTR on a hammer build. And that is going to happen in the fall.
That's so exciting.
Can come out on a property, I think it's going to be on our front lawn, and just build frames.
Todd, I think you're there.
So you can
everyone come see Todd Leonard in person.
Sandy, don't scare the listeners. I don't want to surprise them.
No wheelbarrow.
If you see me with the hammer, once again, there's danger in the air. So, Sandy,
I dropped a hammer on Bob the Builder's head, but thank goodness he followed safety procedures and was wearing his hard hat, his Habitat hard hat, and he lived, and I still built. It could have ended much differently, but Habitat, they train you, they teach you. do. And we've done things wrong, completely wrong, siding wrong. So what happens? You take it all down and you do it again, and you become an amazing sider. I think I could put that on my resume one day.
It's never, and you probably should, and you will. But
and
so
people
Sandy,
are happy, right? They don't get upset. Like, it's just you're learning.
So, I mean, you were joking, maybe not. I don't know about love between the mortar joints and meeting a nice fella. So, who coined that phrase, love between the mortar joints?
Blair did.
No, wait, that was Millard Fuller, our founder.
The founder of Habitat.
There are countless stories of people who met their spouse on our one of our work sites, not just in Mars Habitat, but throughout the country, in the world. We have one of our homeowners, actually another one, ended up meeting a volunteer, and about 5 years later they ended up getting married.
And the person who came to my home interview, she came with a man. They were about the same age. They started dating, but unfortunately it didn't last, but that's okay. She had fun, and she had a boyfriend for a little while, and she met them in my home over my chocolate chip cookies I baked.
Were they were good treats. So, Sandy, you mentioned this blitz build. So, I mean, can you tell us, what's the blitz build?
Yes, so actually Morris Habitat partnered with the Habitat Road Trip Crazies. Todd Gertie, he's a builder and contractor, and he's in West Virginia, and they just love building. They love the families. We write Bible verses while we're building the walls, and they reached out, I guess, to Mars Habitat, and they came with they have a big following. They started probably with like 5 people, I would think, a few guys. And now it's like over, 160 people, part of the Habitat Road Trip Crazies, I think. And they came to New Jersey, Bud Lake, and it just gets so much media and the energy. How many people did we have in a weekend? We built a home.
He's from Passaic County.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
His family's from Passaic County, and what they do is do all this pre-planning and build homes in a short amount of time.
A weekend.
It's a weekend. So we first started with them at the Passaic County High School.
Okay.
The city of Passaic High School. And so we built a home there, and I actually reframed a house on the front lawn of the high school. Then we took the frame and we built a home in 19 hours up in Bud Lake.
It was amazing.
But there's all this pre-planning that goes on. I guess you guys do Zoom meetings or phone calls, and they plan out to the last detail every single thing.
It's amazing.
Food and all the supplies.
We were in West Virginia Tech. The Hokey Pokey, the band was playing on the front yard while we were building, and then like 60 people may come in the morning, and then another 60. It's amazing how detailed everything's planned out. Yep. And there's so much excitement around the town. It's on the news because we're building a house. I mean, the people can't move in when we leave that Sunday or Monday because the painting, but the house, like there's siding, there's doors, there's windows. It's the energy. I can't even describe the feeling and the energy. And watching like the flag go up, and then Larry gives this speech and everyone's crying. There's never a dry eye, and you're working by the side of the homeowners. I just love hearing these homeowners' stories, like what their struggles were. Some people, like they have maybe like 6 kids and they were living in an apartment, and it's just changing lives. I can't even put into words what a blessing. Habitat.
Community event, and the lead guy he jumps all over, he's on the roof, he's on the scaffolding. The planning that goes in is really tremendous. But they have this down to a science.
They do have it down to a science. And they post it on Facebook, Instagram. There's people come from Texas to build on the weekend, and it's amazing, the energy. So maybe one day you'll come to a blitz build. And what Habitat loves, Morris Habitat with the homeowners, they teach us how to fix things. So instead of if something breaks in my house, hopefully from me being on site and building all these homes, I can fix something myself.
That's I have to say
I have resources.
I must say though, I did change the battery. We have remote control to get into we have a keypad by the garage.
Yeah.
I was so proud. I told my wife. She looked at me like, "What's the big deal?" So Blair, can you? If people are listening, hopefully really enjoying the show, how do they reach the Mars Habitat for Humanity?
MarsHabitat.org, www.marshabitat.org, or call us at 973-891-1934.
So one of the things why I'm so privileged to have both you ladies on today, is our show is about building communities, lifting others up. We're all in this together. So, Blair, some of these things I was researching last night, how to, get on top of this, a lot to cover. And very impressive ladies is you also have these we'll call it like a blitz bill where you're framing things are also done in a high school setting, right? Yes. Where you have a lot of students. And what I'm thinking is you're planting the seed of doing good, of helping others for the sake of helping others. What's that like when you see the young kids getting involved?
Well, it's really terrific.
Roxbury, they built a whole house.
Roxbury, yep.
I think it's important. Not everyone is made to go to college. We need carpenters. We need electricians. There's amazing money in those fields, and it's needed. So there's people at Roxbury High School who want to go into carpentry. So I'll let Blair take over.
And that's a beautiful thing. And you can see our homeowners stay involved, and they listen, and they participate, and not just go on. They get on with the business of living, but we're that family. Yeah. So under Frank Cacaval, the structural design and fabrication teacher there, they developed a program that's hands-on. So not only are they learning classroom work, all the different trades, they partnered with us to build a home for this Edith Road home up in Landing that we recently moved, and we've got video on our Facebook page. And it was 2 years. Each year they built the half of the home. Before that, we were working with high schools like Passaic High School, and Mountain Lakes High School did something a little bit different. They incorporated in their curriculum the entire year about this important social issue of housing. Everything starts with housing. Good education, good food, health. You really think about,
Every
studying.
Child should have a safe place to sleep at night.
That's right.
And feel secure.
And so they incorporated in their English, in their math, in their science. And at the end of the year, they didn't tell the kids that we were going to be building framing on the front lawn of Mountain Lakes High School. And at the end, they surprised the kids with that. And we framed a whole house on the front yard of Mountain Lakes High School. And there were kids doing all kinds of things, not just framing, but you had the art students, and they built painted a big banner. You had your journalism students where they were doing interviews and drone videos, and you had kids helping out, bringing food, and it was an amazing microcosm of what we do. So starting young, letting the kids know, and in a community like Mountain Lakes, many of the students don't really understand that this exists right here in our county. If you don't mind me telling a little story about one of our dedications, this little boy who they rented an attic apartment in Morristown, mom, dad, 2 kids, and they shared the bathroom. This family shared the bathroom with the 3 other families and the kitchen facilities. The house was loaded with rodents and cockroaches and so forth. And they basically had a room with 2 beds and the kids. But this is all the parents could afford. And they both worked. He at a hotel and she in a daycare. Again, folks that we need in our community. Yeah. We're at the dedication with the mayor and the CEO of a large corporation. And this kid takes away the mic and starts talking and saying, I want to get in the house right today. I'm moving in the house. How can we do this? I'm not going home. He's 10 years old. Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's life-changing.
We couldn't, unfortunately, and it broke our heart. Yeah. But a couple of weeks later, he moved in. But this is that life-changing. So a little 10-year-old, he just wants to go home and lay in his bed and think about baseball or soccer and, trading cards and what little boys think about, and not have to worry about if I have to share a bathroom that gets locked, by the way, in the middle of the night.
Bugs and with
that's what they lived in right here in Morris County.
Yeah, that's the eye-opener, that even though there's tremendous affluence in our community, there's still people that they have a need.
And they work. They're hardworking people every day, and they're just struggling to get by.
So, Sandy, Blair just told us about that situation with this wonderful family in Morristown that thankfully now have their home.
Yes.
And so just think about what that 10-year-old's life is going to be like now.
And I bet that 10-year-old is going to change so many lives moving forward because he's got an amazing story to share. And his whole life now being in a Habitat home, I'm positive. I have goosebumps. Like, I just think God's going to do amazing things, and he'll give back, and he'll pay it forward, and he'll share his story.
So Sandy, when you go to the sites and you're building, putting sweat equity in, even though you don't need to, because you have hepatitis.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful disease, and we don't want a cure for it.
No, we don't.
Very rare you don't want a cure for a disease. No, but Sandy, when you're talking to the families and they're going to get their new dream home, because it's a dream, right?
It is a dream.
What is that like when you talk to those families?
I get emotional. I cry. I hug them. Just a few weeks ago when I was in Randolph building, it was just hearing their stories. The one woman said she's tried so many times. Then another woman's like, oh, it was my first time and I got it. I was like, well, that's beautiful. And that doesn't always happen, you know? I'm like, but you're so blessed. And they all realize, like, I don't know if they really realize the magnitude of how much their lives are going to change, but they know, like, something huge is happening.
You know what I think?
It's beautiful.
It's scary, too, at the same time. In the beginning, that, oh, my goodness, I now own this.
Yes.
But we're right there, and she's got the mentors. Yes. We're there, answer the phone, you know, many times. I also have 4 kids, and so we would trade stories about.
It was hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
My 4 daughters, like, except for Danae, the one who was in kindergarten, and then they didn't have all-day kindergarten in Denville at the time, so she had to go to St. Mary's, a little Catholic school. So it was challenging. And also the girls adjusting. It was hard, but Blair would meet me for breakfast and she watched me cry, and it was such a blessing. It was challenging, but it was a blessing. You know, it's scary.
Your attitude, Sandy, is really remarkable. But I'm thinking about everybody that's listening and just life in general. I mean, things happen. Things are not always going to be peaches and cream. It's not just a straight line up.
No,
there's a lot of different things that happen.
Yeah.
I used to phrase like getting clobbered, like you don't see it coming.
I know.
No, really, people go through a lot of adversity.
You have to stay hopeful.
Do you think it means more looking back, because you weren't able to win the random drawing in Summit, many years ago, but that it changes you, but it made you stronger as a person.
Stronger, built more character.
Yeah.
Yes.
Character,
adversity.
Right?
Yeah. Trials, tribulations. It actually probably developed my faith stronger in God. And I love that Habitat. It is a Christian organization. I like that we pray. But it doesn't matter if you're Jewish. It doesn't matter if you're atheist. We love all the people who come and volunteer. So come out and volunteer. It's life-changing.
Right. I saw it. It's a coalition of wonderful people. Doesn't matter your skin color.
We don't care.
Your nationality.
I built with prisoners in Summit. They brought the prison guys. Mm-hmm. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yeah. So I built with prisoners.
The Sheriff Labor Assistance Program.
I built with the Jets' wives. I built with lawyers, doctors. But everyone there, pastors, they're smiling. They're so thankful. They're so happy. They're so present. And they're making a difference. Right, it's life-changing.
It's really incredible.
It's beautiful.
I want to talk about Rockefeller Wood.
Yes, the Rockefeller tree. That was one of the most fun times.
From Blair on the Rockefeller tree.
I worked with the guy who wrote the book, but you share the story. He's one of the Habitat crazies.
You wouldn't take my call if in the future I didn't bring up Rockefeller Wood.
No. Well, every year there's a Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center. Tishman Spire is the owner of Rockefeller, and they put the tree up, and after the tree comes down, that tree gets milled, and it goes to a Habitat affiliate somewhere. In 2013, it was after Hurricane Sandy, we got the wood, and they stamp it with the date and the logo of the Rockefeller tree, and we put that wood in several homes.
Yeah.
So, which is really nice. So it's inside the home.
And we took a bus. It was so much fun.
Go and visit it.
And somebody paid New Jersey Natural Gas.
They sponsored it. Bus, yeah.
It was so much fun. And at that time, all my daughters went with me. And I'm like, girls, this is going to build other people's homes. And they're like, that's so cool. But they were younger, so they didn't really understand.
And now there's the author that you read. Now I can't remember his name.
He wrote a tree about the Rockefeller Christmas tree. And
the story story on it. Yes.
The whole story. And he traveled with the Habitat Road Trip Crazies just to see what's going on. But then he fell in love, and he actually is now a Habitat Road Trip Crazy. And I see him at so many of our builds.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's an amazing person. And he wrote I forget the name of the book, but it's about the the Rockefeller Christmas tree.
Yeah, how it started, and it was like from the 30s, and just a great story. And and again, it's a tree that it's the giving tree.
The giving tree, and that's my favorite book growing up, The Giving Tree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what
that's
you
the
ladies
Rockefeller tree
are giving so much of yourselves.
Thank you.
And lifting up the community.
Thank you.
So Blair, I also read that you won a big award, Icon Business Leader Award, just last year. What does that mean in terms of, the commitment and passion you've had for affordable housing and lifting up the community? Because when you started many years ago, the organization, with all due respect to your predecessors, is different than it is today. So why do you think you've been able to be such a great steward of the program, of this organization?
I think I have hepatitis like Sandy, but on the organizational side, my board, I'm a goal-oriented person, and my board said, you need to build 5 homes a year. Now, I'm thinking, how do you do that? 5 homes a year, you've got to have property and all this. Goal-oriented. I know, we were talking about this earlier, we all know our strengths and weaknesses. I know where I'm good at, I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at. And I brought on people who, from board members, slowly built a staff of people in the community who know about construction. We were talking about Jim Downs, right? Our mutual friend. He was one of my early mentors. He had already come on the site early on, and I met him. And he's a developer. So, Jim, help me. How do, what does a hammer mean? All this stuff. So he helped. We just slowly built goal-oriented, and it goes back to my fundamental belief that I had this wonderful help and support in the community, with my family, that I want others to have that. That really is what drives me.
It's amazing.
And hearing this.
But when I met 20 years ago, it was just Morris. Now we're building houses in Plainfield, Perth, Amboy. It's amazing how much Habitat has expanded Morris Habitat.
Yeah. And it's because of you ladies and the wonderful volunteers.
And my mentor, Mark Bippis, he's amazing. He square danced with Jimmy Carter's wife, and that's my mentor from Habitat. And he came to the build a few weeks ago, and he's an amazing person. He loves the Lord, and he loves building, and he worked for Habitat. He retired from Habitat. He volunteers with Habitat, and
he was with Millard Fuller, our founder, as a young college student in the mid-'70s.
Yeah,
and
he's amazing.
He's done a lot of work with Habitat, and he was a volunteer with us. Then we hired him, and then he retired and came back as a volunteer.
It's amazing.
But he's had his own terrible health journey.
But he's still on the construction site,
full of hope, full of love, full of the
beautiful.
Lord, and really continuing to give back. I mean, how can you not continue when you have folks around us who've had their journeys and their challenges that I want to be here and do what I can do to help more folks like Sandy. And so
thank you. I just feel so blessed and so thankful and honored to be on your show today. Thank you.
Well, it's my honor, ladies, once again, to share your journey with us.
Thank you.
Because you ladies really are incredible. I always think about, way back in the day when, God forbid, there was a fire and a house was burnt down, way back in the 1800s, and even earlier in the 1700s, when the community would get together and rebuild that house.
Amazing things happen, right? When everyone comes together and you have unity in the community.
Unity in the community.
I love that.
That is a blessing.
And it's love, and it's just happiness and joy. Sometimes you're cold, you're tired, you're exhausted, but still the energy. You have to come out and really experience it.
So, ladies, I just want to say once again, Morris Habitat for Humanity is a wonderful organization. It's something that anybody can get involved in. Remember, there's organizations like this all over the place. Find your passion. Think about others. Don't always think about yourself. We're in this together.
Yes.
A community has to be there for each other, to lift each other up. And remember, you never can forget, we're in this together. God bless you. Enjoy this incredible Memorial Day weekend. Take care.
The Todd Leonard Show is sponsored by the Leonard Foundation, whose mission is to support the children and families who are battling pediatric cancer and those in need of food and assistance, women's shelters, and other important social services in the community. They also proudly support those fighting pancreatic cancer. They feel it's vitally important to help those in need in our amazing community when they need us the most. Please join them in extending a helping hand and go to leonardcharity.org and donate now. Together, we can touch many lives.